right, how you guys doing today? We about to hop into another reaction. The first things first, though, I just want you guys to make sure that you like the video. You know, hit a little exit full screen, scroll a bit, like it, and then full screen it back up. You feel me? We got another reaction coming by way of the Biblical Bookworm. I'm not gonna lie, that last video was so quality. Gotta check it out again. And we got the most abused or unused gift from God. And the thumbnail was like a man and a woman with some money. I don't know if she's gonna talk about money. I don't know what's going on, but we're gonna figure it out by way of this video. So let's check it out.
There is one gift from God that often gets mistaken for a potential temptation. Most of the time, this gift is either abused or unused. The gift I'm talking about is beauty. Nowadays, there are usually two approaches to physical beauty. In secular culture, beauty is often equated with sex appeal, and the attention it attracts is often abused, for example, through selling nude pictures online. Devout Christians, on the other hand, sometimes end up not using the gift of beauty at all in an effort to avoid immodesty or vanity. Both approaches are incomplete because beauty has immense power for good. It has the power to transcend the material world and lift up our thoughts to the divine. In this video, I'd like to explain the power of beauty and offer some practical ideas on how this gift can be used for good.
Okay, before she goes any further, I just want to give my thoughts, right? So she mentioned like people selling things online for money. Makes sense. We've seen that in today's culture. Personally, I don't know what she's going to get into, right? But I've had this conversation before with, not on the channel, I don't think, right? But I'm not a big fan of like makeup and all that things because I think it paints a false picture of what beauty is. I don't know if she's going to get into that, but specifically takes away from what's already naturally beautiful. There's a J. Cole line that I really like from his song, Crooked Smiles. No need to fix what God already put his paintbrush on. What do we need to add to what God already made beautiful? God said that everything was made good. Therefore, what do we need to add to that? And that's not to say that there's not things we can add, like, oh, if you somebody who's born without an arm, you know, we make them a prosthetic. That's not saying that, right? That's to help them function a little bit better, enjoy their life, and carry on the same. But beauty is like, I don't think I look good. I think I look ugly, right? When I was a kid, my dad made sure to strain, we will not say that, was it him? I think it was my dad. I was like, we don't really use the word ugly in that. We don't use the word ugly, telling us like God made everything good and beautiful. We don't use the word ugly. There is nothing that is ugly because God made it all good. It doesn't even feel right coming out of my mouth saying that word, honestly. So yeah, I've just never been a fan of makeup or anything like that, just because I think it detracts from what God already said that he made good, specifically in relation to how we all look as people, right? And I've talked to you guys about, you know, my hairline and stuff like that. Like, it's good, it's beautiful. Like, let's be honest, though, it's pushed back and it's not straight, right? We can admit that. That doesn't mean it's ugly. It's just not societally beautiful. All right, let's get back into it.
The desire for beauty is different from other desires because usually what you enjoy is the satisfaction of a desire and not the desire itself. When you're thirsty, you don't enjoy being thirsty, you enjoy quenching that thirst, and once you quenched it, it no longer occupies your mind. Beauty is different. With beauty, you enjoy the desire without its satisfaction. If you think about it, you can't consume beauty. You want to see beauty, to hear it, to discover it, but your desire for beauty is never satisfied. For example, you don't stop looking at a sunset because you've seen enough of its beauty, but because the sun has set and now you have to wait for the sun to rise again. And even though you've seen many sunsets in your life, you're not going to be less fascinated by the next one. Your desire for beauty points you to something that this world can't satisfy. It points you to the source of all beauty, God. As C.S. Lewis put it, if I find in myself a desire which no experience in this world can satisfy, the most probable explanation is that I was made for another world. Together with truth and goodness, beauty forms the transcendentals, which are the properties of being. And
so before this video, I'm not even gonna lie, I saw the little number things in the corner, and this little note, see it, made me like actually scroll down here like, oh, there's actually you know, like sources. And that's kind of crazy. Like, this is really, I said it before, like high quality content. Like, you got sources written in here with footnote stamps and chapters in the video. I don't even have chapters in my video. I don't think I need them, but but yeah, that's crazy. That's great. That's great. Anyway, back into it.
Since God is being himself, they are the properties of God. In him, they reach their perfection, and only he can satisfy the desire we have for them. Recently, I was discussing the validity of Christianity with an atheist, and he criticized the fact that Christians stick gold to the walls in their churches instead of donating that money to the poor. But gold in churches serves an important purpose. The beauty of churches not only glorifies the God worshipped there, but also offers a glimpse of Him here on earth. So what are the practical implications of that? Every Christian is a walking advertisement for Christianity, whether they intend to or not. You might be the only practicing Christian in someone's life, and they're likely to generalize their impression of you to Christianity in general. It follows that apart from dressing with dignity, we should also try to express beauty through our appearance. This isn't limited to dress. Of course, inner beauty is the most important form of beauty, but humans have eyes. We weren't created as a ghost, but instead we were given a body through which we should glorify God as well. The first impression someone has of you will probably not be your good heart. Instead, they will notice whether you take care of your health, hygiene, and appearance. I'm genuinely convinced that all humans can be beautiful when they take care of themselves. And I think I can prove this to you. Have you ever been in a garden and thought to yourself, now, this is an ugly flower? Or have you ever been in nature and when you spotted a deer or a bunny, have you ever thought to yourself, well, there's a face only a hunter could love? You might have seen a wilted flower or a sick animal, but when healthy, all of God's creation is beautiful. There might be varying degrees of beauty in people, just like one might argue that some flowers are more beautiful than others. But at the end of the day, every human, just like every flower, possesses beauty. I think one reason why we judge our own appearance so harshly is because of constant confrontation with artificially created beauty ideals, which distort our perception of what's actually beautiful. These beauty ideals exist because if people had no insecurities about their looks, many corporations would lose customers. But that's not what I mean when I speak of beauty and its power. Many of those beauty ideals are actually harmful and unhealthy. The Christian goal should be instead to take care of the body you were given and to be the healthiest version of yourself. And when getting dressed, don't just throw random clothes together. You might be burying a talent without even noticing it. St. Francis de Sales actually wrote that the devout person should be the best dressed person in the company. By the way, this isn't automatically that the devout.
So I was gonna interrupt earlier, but I was like, let me give some room for her to elaborate, right? And she elaborated in what I wanted, right? When she was talking about beauty, but then also saying that makeup and all that stuff, the corporations want it to be a harmful practice where you're constantly buying stuff and constantly hating the way you look and all that. So I was like, all right, we're back on a good thing. But I seen this and I don't think that I like this take, particularly because people would always talk about around me. I had always heard, oh yeah, Jesus wore robes, he was washing other people's feet, he was always dirty, you know, he was homeless, moving from place to place, right? He wasn't always the cleanest or wearing the nicest stuff and all that. And I was like, you're right. And then there's that one verse somewhere in Matthew that says, if you look at the flowers of the ground, whatever, and they don't do anything, but they are beautifully dressed or whatever, so don't even worry about what you wear, because how much more will God clothe you if he clothes the flowers? And he doesn't love the flowers as much as he loves you. Essentially saying, and he did say, don't worry about what you wear. Now, I don't think he literally meant don't worry about what you wear, like go out the house naked or go out the house wearing like literally anything that just covers up what's legally appropriate. Obviously, we don't see everybody just walking around in tunics and all that like Jesus's time. But at the same time, I don't think there's an insane effort that needs to go into your choice of clothing. Like for me, I dress very relaxed all the time. Like I dress comfortable enough to where people would still say he's presentable, sure, but nothing like I'm not wearing a suit or fancy shirts all the time, nothing like that. I wouldn't even want to do that. Actually, I kind of would, but like it's not the point. It's like I don't want to make that an idol of, oh, I have to look good every time I'm going outside, I gotta look good, I gotta smell good, I gotta, you know, whatever. You guys see me with the same, I cut my hair like every 3 weeks. Most people cut their hair like every week, every 2 weeks, right? Whatever, but I cut my own hair also to save on money. And so the fact that I don't go to a barber and then that one magical cut is so good that I'm like, now I gotta keep going back and I gotta keep looking my best and I gotta keep spending money on that, because then it becomes an idol of like, I need to have a haircut, I need to do this, I'm having taking pride in the fact that I don't need that, because I just need Jesus, and that's okay. Now, I'm not saying that's not what she's saying, right? I'm not saying that what she's saying is inherently bad. I understand the point that she's trying to make, right? You know, you should want to look your best and presentable. And I can understand that, especially in society, right? You don't get a chance to talk to a lot of people unless you look a certain way. You don't even get the chance to interact with the opposite sex if you don't look a certain way most of the time. So from that perspective, I do understand that. And sometimes you might not have the conversations with some people where you can talk to them about Jesus if you don't look a certain way, right? Because some people might just come up to you, hey man, I like what you're wearing, I like your shoes, whatever. And then boom, you can just talk to them about whatever. Opens up a door to friendship, opens up to you sharing the gospel eventually. You just bad, that conversation never happens, blah, 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 blah. I was watching a podcast the other day of some of my favorite YouTubers, and they were talking about I was outside this party. I peed on the wall. This other guy was peeing on the wall next to me. We talk for a half second. We get into the party later, run into him, meet this guy. Years down the line, I'm living with that guy he introduced me to. He's my best friend now, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, you're one random interaction away from meeting your best friend or your life completely changing, because they also moved across the country. And it's those little interactions that could definitely shift the life of not only you, but somebody in you's life. Right? You think sharing the gospel with somebody, nothing's going to change, but at least I shared the gospel. You don't know how that person's going to take that 5 years down the line, if God willing gives them 5 more years. So I do understand it, but at the same time, right, there's a level of don't make it an idol. Jesus said don't worry about what you wear, because God will clothe you. You can put some effort into your clothes, but don't make it an idol of, I have to, right? Just keep it a basic practice. Just keep yourself a nice rotation of some shirts and some pants where you can mix it up. I don't know if you've seen that Steve Harvey clip where he said every man should have 5 suits: black, brown, white, gray, blue, and then you mix it with the shirts and you got like 400 combinations of outfits you can wear. And there's some truth to that, right? But I'm not saying you need 5 suits or something, but have a nice rotation of like, okay, I wore this shirt with these pants, now I can wear this shirt with these pants and that shirt with those pants. And you just got a nice, flip it up a bit. I was thinking about this because I've never been into fashion. My parents never like cared about my clothing to the utmost degree, where I was like, maybe when I'm adult, a little later in life, and I care a little bit more when I get my job or get my own place, I'll set aside a little budget of like, $50 a week where I buy a new article of clothing until I have a decent cohesion of a closet where I can go outside and not just be wearing athletic shirts, athletic pants all the time, because that's all I need right now, right? I get up, I go to class, I go to the gym right after, I go to the gym before, then I go to class, right? It's a lot of just athletic wear so I can go to the gym and then go to class and be comfortable and all that, but it's not like I'm going outside and my impression fully matters, right? I'm going to be a teacher. I need to look presentable in front of my students, and I would like to portray that, so that is something I do want to slightly invest in. And I have faith that God will clothe me, but not also make an idol out of me clothing myself, if you get what I'm saying. Anyway, I'm sorry for that rant. Back into
Out person should be the best dressed person in the company. By the way, this isn't automatically vanity. Father Mike Schmitz defines vanity as an inordinate preoccupation with what other people think. Caring about what other people think isn't bad. Actually, it's often necessary to be able to properly care for other people. By dressing well, for example, you show that you respect yourself and you show that you respect others. It becomes inordinate if it stops you from doing what God is calling you to do. To avoid an inordinate preoccupation with what others think, it's helpful to focus on what God thinks. Here I'd like to recommend a video I once made on the topic of pride, which also includes vanity, where I summarized multiple theological sources on the topic. In that video, I explained that in order to avoid pride, we should practice gratitude for our gifts instead. Either way, God gave you the gift of beauty, which you can and should employ for His greater glory. Dostoevsky once wrote that beauty will save the world. He saw beauty as intricately connected to truth and goodness. When used correctly, beauty can be a powerful tool for the apostolate. And in order to see what it means to use the gift correctly, I'd like to devote some attention to dressing with dignity, also called modesty. The goal of dressing modestly is to express the dignity of the person. Modest clothes draw the attention away from the body as merely a sexual object, and instead direct the attention at the entire person, which encompasses that person's sexuality but isn't limited to it. Emphasizing dignity isn't opposed to expressing beauty. On the contrary, it emphasizes the beauty of the whole person. What it means to dress with dignity is subject to cultural change, because what is considered elegant versus sexually provocative varies depending on time and place, and also on the profession and the state of life. What I personally think of when I hear dressing with class or with dignity are the various royal families in Europe. Their style isn't the only way to express dignity, but I think that it's certainly one good example. While modesty also reduces the temptation of others to lust, it's important to note that human beings have free will. This means that everyone is responsible for seeing others as persons, no matter what they wear. While tempting others to sin is sinful, it's crucial to remember that no matter what someone wears, it's always wrong to objectify them. Finally, I'd like to define what exactly lust is, as I've used the term multiple times in the previous section of this video. Lust is not the same as sexual attraction or erotic love. Lust is self-centered and turns a person into an object for one's own pleasure. It objectifies the other person by reducing them to an instrument for gratification rather than recognizing them as a whole and unique individual. Lust is focused on one's own gratification. The opposite of lust is love. Love is defined as willing the good of the other. And here the philosophical use of the word differs from everyday language, because love is always a choice. Just because you're wildly in love with someone doesn't mean you love them. You enjoy how the person makes you feel and what that person can do for you. But that's not automatically love. Love would be to wish them the best and take actions that lead to their good. Often, that means sacrifice on the part of the lover. One of the books I read in preparation for this video was God is Beauty. And in one chapter, an author reflected on nakedness in art. He told the story of how he was in his first art class at age 18, and the assignment was to draw a nude woman from observation of a live model. He explained that this was the first time he ever saw a naked woman, as he had been a, quote, good Byzantine Catholic boy so far, and had no experience with pornography. In the book, he recounts that he was capable of seeing the woman as a person, or in theological terms, he was capable to view her sacramentally by realizing that her body made visible the invisible, the spiritual and the divine. The reason why the body makes visible the invisible is that we can only interact with others through their body, and the body has the ability to make the entire person visible. When drawing the nude woman, the man realized that it's possible to look at a naked body without lusting. This man became a priest after art school. That passage fascinated me, and it made me wonder whether this would be the world we would be living in if pornography didn't exist. In fact, many studies have shown that watching porn leads to objectifying views. And according to a priest I once talked to, one of the reasons why fewer men are interested in becoming priests might be their inability to see women as persons. So if you have a child, think about how you can help them to stay away from pornography, because it's usually easier to prevent an addiction from developing rather than fighting the addiction after years of habit. This world needs more good Christian boys and girls. So when admiring beauty, it's important not to reduce someone to an object of pleasure, but to remind oneself that they are a person. Ask yourself how you can love that person instead of using them for pleasure. Take those moments where you admire beauty to direct your thoughts to God and thank Him for the beauty of His creation. In this way, every beautiful person you meet will serve as a reminder of God's infinite beauty, a reminder of the only satisfaction of this desire that can never be satisfied in this world.
And then just some points to hit off on at the end, right? I want to just add a comment about my rant earlier. That's not to say that God didn't create beauty for a reason, not to say that we shouldn't adorn ourselves in some way, right? There's obviously the verses in the New Testament where it's like braiding your hair is bad, women should dress with modesty, head covering, which may or may not be literal or not, I'm not sure. It's been a minute since I studied that one, and I don't remember coming into a full consensus based on the one sermon that I watched. The good thing that I like about her, she reads books in preparations for her videos. I get on here and start talking. Not in like a fully ill-informed way, but it's just more in a casual way where this is like, you can tell this is really scholastic and really informed and educated, where I just come on here and I try to break stuff down for my, I don't want to say simple mind, but you know, for more easy to digest content where you don't really have to think about it too much, and you just hear me talking to you saying, yep, brother's spitting facts a little bit, somewhat. He knows a little bit of what he's talking about. He's saying things that relate. and the goal obviously is not for me to like be a teacher, pastor, whole on thing with this video, but more just so to get your thoughts provoking and see how you can take this and foster your own relationship with God and see how that transforms into you. All right, when we're talking about this, how do you view your clothing? Are you one of those persons with 3 closets? Are you one of the people like me who barely care, who all his clothes fit in one duffel bag and like a half a tote when he comes to college? Like, you know what I'm saying? But also you look back in the Old Testament, and to her point about like churches being covered in gold and all that, when it was building the temple, how many things did Solomon have that was dipped in gold, this, you know, get the finest wood from Lebanon here, and all this stuff. And then when it came down to the robes of Aaron, yo, I want these stones on it, these stones. They had me looking up these stones, like I didn't even really know what it was. And then they started talking about onyx, and my only experience with onyx was this video game with an onyx sword, and I was like, isn't that just a metal? But then you look up an onyx stone and you're like, wow, that's pretty beautiful. And this is the stuff that God wanted to represent Him, meaning that there is truth in the fact that, you know, God wants to be represented with beauty, whole so enough that He made us, right? I don't even know if that whatever I just said made sense, right? But proving with our existence that He wanted us to be represented by beauty, because guess what? He made us in His image. He made Jesus in the same image as us, who was also Him. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything points to God wants to be represented with beauty. It's just how that beauty is used and the way that we go about it and our heart posture within our relationship with Him, right? And then just to cap off that last point about like probably less men are becoming priests because it's hard for them to view women as people. I've talked about this before on the channel, right? How my youth group that I go to on campus, there's a huge divide, you know, at least is what I see. there's a huge divide between the men and the women, right? We start talking about stuff and it's all right, guys splitting the guy groups, girls splitting the girl groups, when it's like, I don't know how they think theologically. I don't know how they think in their day-to-day life. I don't know about the struggles they go through. And that's not to say there's anything wrong with me not knowing their issues, but like I would like to, in the sense of like, hopefully one day I have a wife, and hopefully one day I have a daughter, and I would know how to go about, you know, oh, I understand because I've heard about this before. Oh, this is how you feel. And I can understand because I've had these interactions where that makes sense, right? Like even last night, I was having a talk with some of the girls on my staff and they were asking questions about like stuff that I've heard girls say and stuff that I think about girls, because like this is very foreign as somebody who's Christian and hasn't had like an actual relationship. One, the youth group is very split. I don't talk to my mom about girl stuff because it's like I haven't had a girlfriend, therefore I don't talk to her about like, oh, girls do, like, mom, how do girls like blah 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 blah, and then she don't talk to me, like all I know really is about her menopause, like, and that's not worthwhile to this age group. And then the world would try to tell me some things where it's like, oh, you got to treat them like this and you got to treat them like that because they like that, when really it's like, that doesn't sound like I'm loving my neighbor as myself though, so I'm not gonna do that, you know. And I don't know if, you know, men are feeling the same thing, especially in church context, right? Because these are people that want to become priests. I don't know if they're feeling that same thing. But I will say what I do like about Muslims, for example. I got a lot of Muslim friends. I just met 2 Muslims the other day. We was talking because I broke their fast with my banana bread that I let them try. It was actually pretty funny and all that stuff. But the thing I really like about Muslim women, for example, with the head coverings and all that stuff, like they are very modest. And I do think that that helps other people see them as people. And I'm not just talking about like Muslim men, for example, but also like people in general. They're saying I have something more to offer and I want that in every context. They don't just wear it around the house. They don't just wear it when they go to the mosque, or not the mosque. Are they the ones that go to the mosque? Yeah, 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 the mosque. We're gonna stick with that. Right, they don't just wear it there, they go out everywhere with it because they're saying I have more to offer this world than just what my body says. Here's my face, for example, my hair is covered because, you know, that does something, right? There's a thing that says God said women should have their long hair or something, or it's a shame for men to have long hair specifically, which makes it seem like, oh, I don't remember this verse about women with long hair, but I'm pretty sure there's a thing and something that says it anyway. But regardless, they have their head covered. You know, a lot of them wear makeup and it makes sense, right? That their face is the only thing on display, so I guess, but I'm still not a fan of it personally. But even when they pray, they go into separate rooms because with all the bowing and the stuff, like they go into separate rooms so the men aren't distracted by the women there who are doing the same activities, but like, you know, the posture may be a little bit revealing, or they might just get distracted in general just by looking at a woman in there when they're supposed to be focusing on God. And we all know that men can get a little crazy when they're around women, right? And they're trying to like show off a little bit. So it could be something like that. I don't know. I'm not Muslim, but I just really like that approach to a culture that respects women and represents women in the best light possible. And then for the best final note, I'm sorry, I said like final note twice already, but the final note, there's nothing more than I love, I think, than when it's spring or summer and I can go run with my shirt off and it's sun and the sun's feeling great on me and the trees are shining green, the grass is shining green, and I just go lay down after, look at the bright blue sky, sun shining on me, feeling warm, sweat covered on me, the grass is feeling nice and everything, and it's just like the best feeling because I look around and I'm like, it's beautiful. Not only the view and everything that I see is beautiful, but the feeling is beautiful. And then I think about me and how I'm trying to become more beautiful. Like I'm staying in shape, 1, but like 2, I'm trying to become more beautiful, like accentuating the beauty that God gave me. And I'm like, everything is just beautiful. And whenever I see the sun and the green, like I need glasses. My eyes are not very bad, but they're pretty bad. And when I put my glasses on and go walking outside, I'm like, God made this world so beautiful. I'm looking at the green shine, and even in the winter when the snow is white and it's flat, I like when it's all flat, uniform, sun shining on it, and I'm like, this is just beautiful. This is beauty. God made this world so beautiful. And you could really tell that beauty is a gift from God, and we just have to control it. All right, that's gonna be the end of the video. Hope you guys have yourselves a fantastic rest of your day. Peace.